My monster-in-law tried to ruin my marriage. Now she's alone and desperate because I didn't stay silent anymore, and then. I've been married to my husband, Adam, for 6 years now. I'm 29, he's 34, and for the most part, our relationship is strong. But there's one massive problem. His mother, Veronica. From the moment I met her, she decided I wasn't good enough for her son and made damn sure I knew it. Veronica is 60, wealthy, and sees herself as the queen of some sophisticated dynasty. She grew up privileged, married into even more money, and believes her word is law. Meanwhile, I come from a working-class background. My parents worked their asses off to give me a good life, but we never had luxury. According to Veronica, that makes me a gold digger. She never outright says it. She doesn't have to. Every conversation, every snide remark, every pointed little humiliation is a reminder that she sees me as beneath them. I should have seen the signs early on. The first time I met her, Adam and I had only been dating for a few months. He had talked about introducing me to his family, and though I was nervous, I was also excited. I imagined a warm dinner, polite conversation, maybe some good-natured questions about our relationship. Instead, I got Veronica. She had chosen the restaurant, a painfully expensive steakhouse where the waiters hovered too close, and the menu didn't even have prices. When we arrived, she barely looked at me, just swirled her wine and turned to Adam. "So, what does she do again?" she asked like I wasn't sitting right there. Adam smiled, completely oblivious. "Claire works as a project manager for an event planning company. She's great at it." Veronica gave one of those polite, tight-lipped smiles. "Oh, how interesting. Translation: that's cute. When are you going to find someone better?" Throughout the night, she barely acknowledged me. She spoke to Adam about business, about family friends, about some charity gala she was organizing. When I tried to contribute to the conversation, she would give a distracted nod and steer things back to Adam. Then, at one point, she turned to me with a perfectly innocent expression. "So, Claire, do your parents own their home?" I blinked, caught off guard. No, they rent." She took a slow sip of her wine, then smiled. "Oh, that's admirable. Some people just aren't in the position to own, I suppose." I knew exactly what she was saying. Adam didn't seem to notice. But I did, and that was only the beginning. By the time we got engaged, I had accepted that Veronica and I would never be close. I figured she didn't love me, but I had no idea just how deep her resentment ran until our wedding day. Everything was going fine until the speeches. The room was filled with 200 guests, all of them watching as Veronica took the microphone, smiling sweetly at Adam. I always thought my son would end up with someone ambitious, someone who would challenge him. She let that hang in the air before adding, "But love is unpredictable, isn't it?" Silence. You could hear a pin drop. Some guests exchanged awkward glances. My mother, sitting at the front, was gripping her champagne flute so hard I thought it might shatter. Meanwhile, I had to sit there and smile, pretending my brand-new mother-in-law hadn't just implied that her son had settled for me. Adam pulled me aside later, furious. "She had no right to say that," he fumed. "I'll talk to her." And he did, but it didn't change anything. After that, she got bolder. At family gatherings, she would casually comment on my weight. "Are you expecting?" she'd ask, eyes gleaming with fake innocence. When Adam and I struggled with infertility, she made sure to remind me that some women just aren't meant to be mothers. She loved bringing up my financial background like it was casual conversation. "It must be so nice to have financial security now, huh?" And through it all, Adam kept saying, "She'll come around." She never did. 2 weeks ago, we had dinner at Veronica's house. It was a full-blown event. She loved throwing these lavish gatherings, the kind where she could hold court and remind everyone how much better she was. I was used to her little digs, but this time, she went for blood. The appetizers had just been served when she smiled sweetly across the table and said, "You know, Adam used to date women with real ambition before he settled down." The air was sucked out of the room. I felt my stomach tighten, my hands shaking slightly as I set my fork down. I took a deep breath, looked her dead in the eye, and said, "Veronica, that was incredibly out of line." Silence. You could practically see the gears turning in her head, trying to figure out how to spin this. She let out a forced chuckle. "Oh, you're so sensitive." I didn't let it slide this time. "No," I said calmly. "I'm just tired of pretending your comments are okay." She blinked, stunned. I think she had expected me to stay quiet like I always had. She looked around, waiting for someone to back her up, but nobody did. Even Adam looked uncomfortable. The rest of the dinner was tense, but I didn't care. I had finally pushed back. That night, I told Adam, "I'm done. Either you put your foot down, or I will." He promised, again, that he'd handle it. But I wasn't convinced. The next day, I vented to my best friend, Julie. She had heard every horror story over the years, and for the first time, she didn't just tell me to ignore it. "Why not turn the tables?" she asked. At first, I dismissed the idea. I didn't want to stoop to Veronica's level. But later that night, I thought about how much I had endured, how every attempt to keep the peace had only made her bolder. I wasn't looking for revenge. I just needed to make it clear that I wouldn't be her target anymore. That's when I formed my plan. In 2 weeks, Veronica was hosting a massive family reunion. Everyone would be there. And if she tried anything again, this time, I'd be ready. Veronica had no idea what was coming. The moment we left Veronica's dinner, I knew I couldn't just sit back and let this continue. 6 years of biting my tongue, of letting her insults slide, of listening to Adam tell me she'll come around. I was done. I wasn't going to be her punching bag anymore. 2 weeks. That's how long I had before her big family reunion. A Veronica-approved event, lavish, over the top, and filled with relatives who either adored her or were too scared to challenge her. Every year, she used this gathering as an opportunity to hold court, reminding everyone why she was the most important person in the room. This time, things would be different. This time, she would expose herself. I started by going through old messages, years' worth of passive-aggressive texts, voicemails, and little gems that I had saved but never confronted her about. The wedding speech video, my best friend, Julie, had recorded parts of my wedding, and sure enough, she had captured Veronica's little speech about how Adam settled. The infertility comments, a text from a few years ago, right after we told her we were struggling to conceive. Maybe it's a sign that motherhood just isn't for everyone. The gold digger accusations, a voice memo she had accidentally sent to Adam instead of one of her friends. She's lucky Adam is generous. Some women wouldn't even get a second look if they didn't marry up. Reading through them made my blood boil, but I kept my emotions in check. This wasn't about fighting fire with fire. This was about making sure that, for the first time, everyone saw exactly who Veronica really was. If there was one person in the family who hated Veronica's behavior as much as I did, it was Adam's sister, Madison. She and I weren't particularly close, but there was an unspoken understanding between us. Madison had spent her entire life dealing with her mother's controlling ways, and if anyone knew how exhausting it was to be on the receiving end of Veronica's judgment, it was her. I met up with her for coffee, testing the waters before bringing her into my plan. "She's been like this forever," Madison admitted after I recounted the latest dinner disaster. "She needs to have someone to look down on. If it's not you, it's me. If it's not me, it's someone else." "Did she ever treat your dad like this?" I asked. She let out a bitter laugh. "She tore him down until he just stopped fighting back. That's what she does. She breaks people until they accept it. Not this time." I told Madison what I planned to do, not to humiliate Veronica, but to hold her accountable. I expected hesitation, maybe even a lecture about taking the high road. Instead, she grinned. About damn time. The night of the reunion, I walked into Veronica's house with my head high. She spotted me instantly, her eyes narrowing like a hawk sizing up its prey. I almost laughed at how predictable she was. It didn't take long. As I set my purse down, she smirked and announced to the room, "Oh, Claire, did you finally learn how to cook, or is Adam still surviving on takeout every night?" A few people chuckled uncomfortably. Others looked away, pretending not to have heard. This was how it always went. She threw her little barbs, and everyone ignored them. But not tonight. I let out a small, amused laugh. Not angry, not defensive, just calm. "Veronica, your creativity in insulting me is honestly impressive." The room went silent. She blinked, caught off guard, then forced a chuckle. "Oh, you take things too seriously, dear." I tilted my head. "Do I? Or do you just not like it when people push back?" Now that got people's attention. A few relatives shifted uncomfortably. Some exchanged glances. For the first time, she was on the spot. Throughout the evening, every time she made a passive-aggressive remark, I responded in the same calm, even tone. Not angry, not flustered, just statements that made her look petty. When she made a condescending comment about my job, I smiled and said, "That's funny. Adam was just telling me how proud he is of my career." This time, Adam actually backed me up. "Yeah, Mom, I don't get why you always say things like that." Veronica faltered. "It's just a joke." "I don't think it is," Adam replied. For years, he had let it slide. Tonight, he wasn't playing along. And then came my knockout punch. Veronica loved bringing up my financial background, always acting like I should be grateful to be part of her world. She did it again that night, an offhand comment about how not everyone grows up with financial security. I smiled sweetly. That's actually a great point. Speaking of financial security, I wonder if everyone here knows that Adam and I paid off that debt of yours last year. Silence. Veronica's face went bright red. "That's not." Adam cut her off. "It's true." Gasps rippled through the room. Even the relatives who normally stayed out of things started whispering. Madison, who had been holding back all night, finally spoke up. "Come on, Mom. You love talking about how much better you are than everyone. And here you were, needing their money." That was it. Veronica stormed off, mumbling something about how we had ruined the night. But the damage was done. I could hear relatives murmuring amongst themselves. Some were sending me looks of sympathy. The ones who had been neutral before, they weren't anymore. For the first time ever, she was the one embarrassed. And round one. Mine. Veronica stormed off that night, but the damage was done. She had spent years carefully crafting her image. The poised, elegant matriarch, the refined woman with a perfect family and an even more perfect son. And I had shattered that illusion in a single evening. By the time Adam and I got home, my phone was already buzzing with messages. Some were supportive, cousins, distant aunts. Even a few of Veronica's lifelong friends who had always stayed quiet messaged me privately. I never realized just how cruel she was until tonight, one cousin admitted. I always knew she had a sharp tongue, but wow, that was brutal. Others? Not so friendly. A few of her enablers, relatives who had spent years circling around her like loyal knights, sent passive-aggressive messages about how I had caused a scene and humiliated Veronica in her own home. One particularly bold aunt even had the audacity to suggest I should apologize. I showed the message to Adam. He read it, sighed, and muttered, "Unbelievable." And then, for the first time in 6 years, he actually admitted it. "I let this go on for too long," he said quietly. "I should have done more to defend you." Seeing it play out like that, in front of everyone, it hit me. It wasn't just little jabs. It was real, and it was cruel. I stared at him, unsure if I should feel relief or frustration. I had been telling him this for years. But at least, finally, he saw it. Still, words weren't enough anymore. Adam could apologize all he wanted, but now, it was time for action. If I had thought Veronica would be embarrassed into silence, I was dead wrong. By the next morning, she had already gone into full damage control mode. She spent the next few days calling family members, spinning a dramatic tale of how she had been betrayed in her own home. According to her version of events, I had come to the reunion with an agenda, that I had been waiting for the perfect opportunity to turn Adam against her. She painted herself as a poor, devastated mother who had been blindsided by a malicious daughter-in-law. She didn't just play the victim. She went on a full-blown smear campaign. Within a week, I started hearing whispers that I had been bullying her, that I was trying to alienate her from the family, that I was destroying their family's dynamic. That's when I made my next move. I had spent years enduring Veronica's cruelty. Now, it was time to expose it. I went back through every message, text, email, and voicemail. Every passive-aggressive insult. Every joke that had a knife hidden underneath. Every fake smile laced with venom. And then, I sent a group message to the family. I didn't write some long-winded explanation. I didn't rant or try to defend myself. I simply attached screenshots. The text where she called me a gold digger. The message where she laughed about how I would never really be part of the family. The one where she mocked my infertility struggles. The voice memo where she told Adam he had downgraded. And at the bottom, I wrote, "I just want to make sure everyone knows the full story before making their conclusions." Then I hit send. The reaction was instant. Some family members, especially the ones who had been sitting on the fence, suddenly went silent. A few messaged me privately, saying they were disgusted by Veronica's words. One uncle, who had always defended Veronica, actually sent me a personal message. I had no idea she said those things. "That's not okay, Madison." She took things even further. She confronted Veronica directly. I don't know exactly what was said, but I do know that within an hour, Veronica was calling Adam. When he picked up, she was crying. But it wasn't an apology. Not even close. She accused me of trying to ruin her reputation. She accused me of turning Adam against her. She claimed I was manipulating him. For the first time in our marriage, Adam didn't brush it off. He told her, flat out, that her behavior was unacceptable, that she had been mistreating me for years, and that I had every right to stand up for myself. And Veronica? She refused to listen. Instead, she doubled down. I was too sensitive. I was blowing everything out of proportion. I was the real problem. So I made my final move. I told Adam, I'm going low contact from now on. If Veronica insulted me, I wasn't going to argue. I was going to leave. If she tried to bait me into a fight, I wasn't going to engage. If she wanted to see us, it would be on our terms, not hers. Adam agreed. And that's when I knew something had changed. Because Veronica, she thrives on control. She needs to be the center of attention. She needs to dictate how things go. And for the first time in her entire life, she was losing that power. Within days, the love bombing started. Suddenly, Veronica was texting about how much she missed us. How family is the most important thing. How she didn't want there to be bad blood. I ignored them. Then she sent gifts. An expensive bottle of whiskey for Adam. A silk scarf for me. I ignored them. Then she tried using other family members to guilt trip us. Veronica is so heartbroken over this. Don't you think it's time to move past everything? I ignored them. The silence must have driven her insane. Because the next thing I knew, Madison was texting me. Mom is flipping out. She says she won't be ignored. Oh, I knew. Because for the first time in years, Veronica wasn't the one pulling the strings. She was the one being humiliated. And if she didn't change, things were only going to get worse for her. Going low contact with Veronica was supposed to give us peace. Instead, it sent her into full-blown panic mode. At first, she tried to act like she wasn't affected. The first few days were eerily quiet. No texts, no phone calls, no sudden unannounced visits. I almost let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, she had finally accepted that she had pushed too far. But Veronica had spent years controlling people, manipulating them into giving her what she wanted. She wasn't going to let go that easily. She was just waiting, lurking in the background, planning her next move. And then, just like that, the storm hit. When ignoring us didn't work, she escalated. The calls started first, one after another, all day long. Adam's phone lit up at least 20 times a day, her name flashing across the screen. She left voicemails swinging between tearful pleas and furious rants. 1 minute. I just want to talk. Can't we move past this? We're family. The next. I hope you're happy, Adam. She's destroying our family, and you're letting her. Adam let the calls go unanswered. Then she started calling from different numbers. When that failed, she left a voicemail on our home phone, the one we barely used anymore, sobbing about how I had turned Adam against his own mother. But she wasn't done yet. Some of the older relatives, the ones who had defended Veronica for years, started messaging Adam. She's your mother, Adam. Don't let some petty argument destroy your relationship. Family is everything. You need to fix this before it's too late. Claire, you should apologize. This whole thing has gotten out of hand. Adam ignored them. I ignored them. And that's when Veronica snapped. Late one night, Adam's phone buzzed with a long, angry text from her. It wasn't passive-aggressive anymore. It wasn't even pretending to be loving. It was pure, unfiltered venom. She accused me of being a manipulative gold digger. She claimed I had brainwashed Adam. She called me an opportunist who had latched onto him for his money. Adam sat on the couch, reading the message over and over. He didn't say a word at first, just exhaled slowly, locked his phone, and passed it to me. I read it, feeling my hands tremble, not with anger, but with something worse. Disgust. She had finally said out loud what she had always believed about me. Adam let out a slow breath. I knew she was bad, he muttered. But seeing it all laid out like this. He hesitated. Then his expression hardened. I can't let this continue. And just like that, he made his decision. He took his phone, typed one simple response, and sent it. Thank you for finally saying how you really feel, Veronica. Now we don't have to pretend anymore. Then he blocked her number. The reaction was instant. Some family members immediately went silent. Others, ones who had been sitting on the fence, started privately messaging me, horrified by what she had said. Madison, she didn't hold back. She called Veronica out in the family group chat. So, if Claire is a gold digger, why did she and Adam pay off your debt last year? Silence. Veronica didn't respond. At least, not in the chat. Instead, she took her tantrum public. A long, dramatic Facebook post appeared on her profile. It was a performance, nothing more. She wrote about how a mother's love is unconditional, even when her child is manipulated against her. She sobbed about how she had been abandoned by her own flesh and blood. She claimed she had only ever wanted what was best for Adam, but outside influences poisoned him against her. She was expecting sympathy, but what she got was a public takedown. At first, a few of her loyal friends jumped to her defense. Sending love, Veronica. Stay strong. You're such a good mother. He'll come around. But then, people started calling her out. Weren't you just escorted out of their baby shower by security? Didn't you try to get your son fired? Maybe you should respect their boundaries instead of posting about it on Facebook. And the real kicker? Adam's father, who had mostly stayed silent through all of this, finally broke his silence. He commented directly on her post. Stop lying, Veronica. You did this to yourself. That was it. Her closest allies, the people who had always enabled her, stopped responding. More and more people distanced themselves. She deleted the post within 2 days, but by then, it was too late. The screenshots had already spread. Her credibility? Gone. At this point, she had lost everything. Her power over Adam? Gone. Her influence in the family? Gone. Her ability to manipulate people? Shattered. So she tried one last move. A letter arrived in the mail, neatly folded, written in her perfect cursive handwriting. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't even close. It was begging. She wrote about how much she missed Adam, how she just wanted to be part of his life again, how no matter what happened, family should always stick together. She never took responsibility. She never acknowledged the damage she had caused. She just wanted back in, because she had nothing left. Adam took the letter, read it once, then tossed it in the trash. I don't care what happens to her anymore, he said. And that was it. Not anger. Not bitterness. Just relief. For the first time in years, I felt at peace. Veronica had spent so long trying to tear me down, to make me feel small, to control us. And in the end, she was the one left with nothing. And the best part? She did it to herself. For the first time in years, life without Veronica was peaceful. No passive-aggressive texts. No sudden phone calls dripping with fake concern. No backhanded insults disguised as jokes. Just silence. And in that silence, Adam and I thrived. We spent weekends actually enjoying ourselves, not dreading family events. We had quiet, happy holidays, free from tension and manipulation. We focused on us, on our future, on the life we were building together. But deep down, I knew it was too good to be true. Veronica had spent her entire life controlling people. She wasn't going to just disappear. She was waiting. And when she finally resurfaced, she came back swinging. We announced the pregnancy on social media, just a simple post. A picture of an ultrasound. A short, sweet caption about how excited we were. Within an hour, my phone started buzzing. Not from Veronica, but from everyone else. Cousins, aunts, even people I barely spoke to. All with the same message. Claire, have you heard from Veronica? I think you should talk to her. She's devastated. She's saying you're stealing her grandchild from her. I checked Adam's phone. 20 missed calls. 40+ text messages. And then, the email came. Long, dramatic. Desperate. She demanded to be part of the baby's life. She deserved to be involved. She would not be left out. Adam typed out a single response. You are not part of our lives anymore. Stop contacting us. And then, just like before, he blocked her. Veronica wasn't the type to take no for an answer. When the texts failed, when the calls went unanswered, when the emails were ignored, she escalated. Days later, Adam got a call from his workplace. Security. Apparently, a woman had been lurking near the entrance, asking to speak with him. At first, she played innocent. She told security she was just a concerned mother checking in on her son. But when they refused to let her inside, she snapped. She started ranting, insisting that I had brainwashed Adam, that I had cut him off from his real family. She was loud enough that people inside the building heard everything. Security escorted her off the premises. Adam was furious. He blocked every known number she had, then changed his work number entirely. At this point, Veronica had no direct line to guilt trip or manipulate us. So she did what she always did. She went public. A long, dramatic Facebook post appeared on her profile. It wasn't an apology. It was a performance. She wrote about how much she had suffered, how she had only ever wanted to love and protect her son. She painted herself as the broken-hearted grandmother, cruelly shut out by her own family. She claimed that some people had turned Adam against her, that she was a victim of a selfish, manipulative woman who stole her son away. She was expecting sympathy. Instead, she got obliterated. The internet turns against her again. At first, her loyal friends left their usual supportive comments. Sending you love, Veronica. They'll regret this one day. A mother's love is forever. But then, people started calling her out. Didn't you just get kicked out of their baby shower for causing a scene? Didn't you stalk your son at work? Maybe, just maybe, if you're being cut off, it's because of you. And the final blow? Adam's father, who had always stayed quiet, commented publicly. They cut you off because of your behavior, Veronica. Stop playing the victim. That was it. The post lasted 2 days before she deleted it. But it was too late. Screenshots had already spread. More and more people distanced themselves. She was losing control, and that's when she made her most desperate move yet. 3 weeks later, a letter arrived in the mail. From a lawyer. Veronica was suing for grandparents' rights. Adam and I sat at the kitchen table, reading it in disbelief. She was actually trying to force her way back into our lives, through the court system. I didn't even need to ask Adam what to do. He picked up his phone, called our lawyer, and scheduled a meeting. Here's the thing about grandparents' rights. They vary by state. And in order to win, a grandparent has to prove they have a pre-existing relationship with the child. Veronica? She had nothing. She had never met our baby. She had never been involved in my pregnancy. She had spent months harassing us. She had no case. Our lawyer wasn't even worried. He assured us that this was just a scare tactic, that Veronica was desperate and grasping at straws. But we still had to go through the process. We filed our response. We gathered our evidence. We prepared for court. And in the meantime, Veronica went back to her favorite strategy, playing the victim. The day before the court hearing, she tried one last stunt. Another Facebook post. This time, it was worse than before. She sobbed about how she was being robbed of her rights as a grandmother. She claimed that I was trying to erase her from Adam's life. She begged for support, saying she was fighting for the chance to see her grandchild. And this time, not even her closest friends defended her. In fact, someone commented something that changed everything. It was one of her own friends. Veronica, maybe this wouldn't be happening if you hadn't tried to destroy their marriage. And then, the comment section turned against her completely. This isn't about your grandchild. This is about control. If you really cared, you wouldn't be taking them to court. You'd be apologizing. You're not the victim here, Veronica. It was brutal. The next morning, she deleted her entire Facebook account. And then, we got the court's decision. The judge took one look at the case, reviewed the evidence, and dismissed it immediately. There are no grounds for further litigation. It was over. Legally. Officially. Permanently. Veronica had lost. And the best part? She did it to herself. If you like the story, subscribe to Thread Chronicles right away and listen to new stories every day. Let us know what you like the most in the comments. Write what you think about this and what could be done better.